Chair Burt, whenever you're ready, we can begin.
Great, thank you. At this time, I'd like to convene the meeting of the City School Liaison Committee for December 16th, 2021. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Chair Burt.
Here.
Board Member Dara.
Here.
Board Member Di Brienza.
Here.
Council Member Tanaka. 3 present.
Thank you. So our first, trying to call up the agenda here. Our first item is oral communications for members of the public who wish to speak to an item that is not otherwise on the agenda. And do we have any speakers?
Chair Burt, we do have some speakers.
Great.
The first speaker is the user with the username Lee.
Great. And
Lee, I see you are unmuted. You can speak.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. The Palo Alto Community Child Care, known as PAC, has been serving the Palo Alto community's infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and elementary school students, providing care needed after school and through the workday since 1974, and is considered a premier nonprofit child care agency with the city of Palo Alto. We're proud of this distinction, and we look forward to providing accessible quality care to families of Palo Alto. As the largest provider of infant, toddler, preschool, and after-school care, PAC prepares the youngest and school-age kids to be successful in their school and in their home life. Quality and accessible, affordable early child care matters because it leads to equity in our community's future. PAC has a long history of delivering quality care with strong parent engagement and endorsement for multiple decades. This can only occur through some key agreements with the city and the school district through several MOUs issued by the district and the city. Today, we ask for clarity for the upcoming RFP process for child care being issued by the school district. PAC learned that the school district will be pursuing an open RFP process for child care this winter. We are unclear of the parameters of the RFP and which age groups are associated with the process. PAC currently has several agreements to support the child care needs of our community, and we value the opportunity to be engaged in the RFP process and continue our relationship with the city and school districts. It is our understanding the city and the school district staff will be meeting soon to discuss the relationship regarding childcare in our community. Our hope is the two entities can provide PAC and other providers of childcare with some clarity about the continued city-school care relationship and how the variety of age-based services of childcare will be determined in the future. PAC is interested in learning more about the expectations of the upcoming RFP. It is unclear if the upcoming RFP is associated with traditional child care, infant, toddler, preschool, and after school, or is aligned with the new Palo Alto Unified School District Promise programming being offered currently by Rite It School. Clarity from the city and the school district will support all entities, and we look forward to being part of the process. Thank you for your help in addressing some of the questions that have arisen with the RFP process. We look forward to many years of building community where children thrive, educators are valued, and families are supported.
Thank you for your comments. There's a second hand raised with the same username as you, Lee P5. Can you confirm if that's you on a second device or if that's a different person?
That is my name, and I'm sorry if 2 came up.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, we have another hand raised from Mary Wheeler.
Hi, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. So I'm a parent of two PASD kids, and I'm specifically it sounds like re-raising the question about transport to middle school, specifically JLS. I know that a lot of the kids used to take the city shuttle, which was amazing, and that there are constraints due to recent times, also hard to recruit bus drivers for the school. So there are quite a few routes going through town with the VTA, including one that goes down Lewis Road and goes to JLS, but it stops there at 8:30, which is when the kids are supposed to be sitting in their seats at school. So I basically am hoping that there's a way for basically the school folks to connect with the VTA and say, hey, could you consider adding a little bit earlier route or routes that would work for these several hundred JLS kids who, yeah, sometimes they bike, but they get a concussion, they have a school project, it's pouring rain, and they can't bike.
Thank you for your comments. Chair Burt, that concludes oral communications.
Great, thank you. And on the last commenter, I'm actually the North County representative to the VTA and would be glad to follow up on that route timing issue and see if there may be a way that VTA can adjust the timing. And so please feel free to contact me at my city email. So moving on approval of minutes, we have the minutes from the November 18th meeting. Do we have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
And I will second. Could the clerk please call the roll?
Chair Burt,
Yes.
Board Member Darup,
I suppose since I wasn't there, I have to abstain, which means we probably don't have enough to pass.
Yeah, so we can, in that case, we can defer approval of those minutes to the January meeting.
February.
Oh, February, thank you. All right, so then I will withdraw my second.
Should I withdraw my nomination?
Yeah, why don't you
My
do that?
motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
great, thank you.
I feel like
Okay.
at this time of year, we always have minutes carryover, so it's consistent.
Great. Oh, and I'm sorry, I just got a text message that Nancy Shepherd said she had her hand raised under the comments for oral communications, but it kept being lowered. So if that's the case, can the clerk see if you can allow that speaker?
yes. It looks like it was the user with the same username, Lee
I see.
PFAB. I'll go ahead and allow her to speak right now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm on my personal computer, so I'm not sure how technology works these days, but thank you for taking me up, Pat. I appreciate it. And I just want to bring your attention to the letter that we submitted to the members of this committee last night regarding the concerns that the clarity that PAC would like to have regarding the process that has been, as you know from the letter, historic since 1989. And as the community moves and changes and we make pivots, we'd like to pivot with the community on addressing the childcare needs of the city and the community. We also, I think Lee, our executive director, covered the points well. We are also wanting to make sure that I personally want to make an appeal and a message to the committee, because some of you know how hard I worked over 20 years ago to bring to fruition district-wide fundraising. I served as PTA council president during that period, worked closely with the then superintendent Don Phillips and subsequent superintendents for years. And this is the jewel of our community is our school district and always has been. And so I want to appreciate all the work that everybody is doing as trustees. And we want to make sure that we keep our community healthy with good quality childcare, after school care, preschool, infant, toddler, all of these programs matter to Palo Alto. And that is always iterated well when we do our surveys of our parents. And so supporting the school district is one of our paramount interests. And so please, please take that to heart as we continue to develop these relationships with our stakeholders in the community. We appreciate the support you've given us over the years, and we look forward to a long future together. Thank you.
Thank you. So on that note, we will close oral communications. And now we're ready to go to item number 3, which is the updates from the city manager and the superintendent. Superintendent Austin, would you like to go first?
Sure. So a few things heading off into the break for us, another day or so. Our COVID testing is, we've worked through the bumps, and not only is that getting better, the company that we use, COVID Clinic, is opening a new, very nice lab. I saw the pictures of it. I'll be getting a tour of it next month in Palo Alto. So that's very exciting that they've gone through that process. They'll be opening here, which will only increase our access and speed for testing. And I've also been really encouraged that we're not only testing staff and students, but the broader community. And we didn't know what the flow of the community would be through the Coverly site, but it's been consistent and you know, triple digits many days. So that's been a great thing for us as well. The vaccination clinics, we've had 2 now. The second unfortunately occurred partially in the rain, but our numbers were still good, and that included booster shots, first shots, and second round shots, especially for those ages 5 to 11. So big turnouts there. Again, I think some people didn't understand exactly how the mechanics of it worked. This is the county providing the vaccination clinics, meaning that they had the release of the vaccines to them, but it was hosted almost entirely by volunteers from the school districts. Almost all employees of the school districts volunteering on Sundays to handle this, which was, yeah, pretty neat thing. And I think most people didn't know that that's what it took to get this done. It was a pretty big undertaking. Additionally, Barron Park's principal, Judy Argametto, was able to partner with mobile vaccination clinic and bring the mobile vaccination to the Barron Park community, and really did extraordinary personal home-to-home outreach. And don't quote me on this because I just heard it in a hallway, but over 60 vaccinations, 30 plus of those were adults that lived in the community getting their first shots. So that outreach effort shows a couple things. First of all, we could have said that as a community, everyone had the opportunity to go to, in this case, Pali for the vaccination clinics, but clearly that wasn't good enough for some of our families, and the additional outreach effort really made the difference. So that was a pretty neat thing there. And then finally, one of our 5 priority goals is service to others. And I saw the school sites really step up what they were doing for service to others, beyond the vaccination clinics and all the testing work that we're doing, but really getting out and trying to help families in need right now. There's been some pretty nice work there. So excited about the semester and getting started on the second half of the year. And actually, like I'm sure most school districts, our mind is starting to turn to next year already as we start to plan and get ready. So that's where we're at. The year is flying by. That's it for me. Thanks.
Well, thank you. And from the city manager's office, I'm not sure who will be doing the presentation, but please take the floor.
Sure, I'll just lead off and then Chantal will follow with anything I miss. Really, the only thing I believe of note for this committee would be to mention that we plan to bring an item related to the Coverly site to the City Council either late January or early February, given the variety of topics, everything from the concept plan to the Greendale support and campus moves, as well as further discussion of the property interests from the city. So just wanted to mention that staff will be working on the content to bring forward at that time. I think that's it for the time being.
I'll just add one item, mostly for the general public and the district, that our city council will be doing their priority setting retreat in January. And right now the public survey is open. So if you have interests of things that you would like the city council to consider as priorities, you can go to, hold on, I had it open and I clicked the wrong window. It's the cityofpaloalto.org/council priorities. So we want to hear from the community. The Policy and Services Committee has given some thoughts already, and the broader community input is also very important. And that's it.
And do we have representative from our transportation department to give any update on the grade separation, and particularly Churchill issue that we had before the council recently?
It's Rippin.
Certainly, I can give a quick thank you, Mayor Bird, Vice Mayor Bird, and Chair. Yeah, the quick update on our grade separation project is that in the last few sessions with the council in early April, we had discussed the 3 grade separation alternatives in XCAP provided the update, and at that meeting the tunnel alternatives for the South Palo Alto were eliminated. Further, after reviewing the detailed analysis on Charleston Meadow, the viaduct alternative was further eliminated for Charleston and Meadow. And so there were some additional studies that the council wanted us to pursue that we will be looking with our consultant to perform to help them or help us narrow these alternatives that are in consideration to further select the preferred alternative. Then later in November, we had 2 meetings, and November 1st, which was continued on to November 29th. And at that meeting, the Churchill Avenue grade crossing was discussed in more detail. Council at this meeting selected partial underpass as the preferred alternative to pursue forward, and considered the closure with mitigation as a backup alternative. The viaduct alternative was removed from further consideration as an alternative at this location. In addition to that, the council directed the staff to work with the rail committee, and as well as with our community stakeholders like PAUSD, Stanford, and Payback to refine some of these alternatives that we are having consideration, such as the partial underpass and the underpass for the Charleston. And so we will be looking forward to working with the PAUSD to get their input, and also seek input from other stakeholders like Stanford and Payback to refine these partial underpass alternatives and develop a more refined version of this alternative for presentation and further consideration for narrowing the alternatives at these grade crossings. So looking forward to work with the school district and seek their input, and that concludes my summary of the actions that has been performed on these grade separation alternatives by the council.
Great, thank you. And so I think now we can move on to updates from PAUSD board members and from the city council. Would Shanik and Jennifer, would you like to provide any additional updates?
I'll start.
I'm
and then you
gonna
tell-
I'm gonna defer to our new vice president.
Excellent.
Nice. Well, Dr. Austin shared a whole bunch of stuff. I think the other two things that really stick out in my head is you've heard about our literacy initiative that we're working on, and it's really going full steam ahead by every measure, right? There's professional development going on, there's visits, teachers visiting each other's classrooms. We've got an adoption process going on where teachers are piloting, just a lot of great work going on there. Danae Reynolds, who's a former principal, is now sort of helping manage that along with our central staff, which is great. And the other really exciting thing from Tuesday night's meeting was that we were presented with basically an equity framework for the district. It's called the SWIFT framework. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's really, I mean, you've probably heard us report out about the equity work we're trying to do, and over years and years, there's been sort of these starts and stops. I mean, no, we never stopped, but it's only gotten so far. And it really feels like this is a very systemic approach. It talks about equity in the realm of academics and in HR and in culture and climate, just in so much, with a lot of actionable goals and lots of specific measures. So I was really excited on Tuesday night to see it. And I think that teamed up with our literacy initiative is really gonna move how well we serve all kids. I think that's it. You got anything else, Shanik? Did I forget something?
To add to that, the system-wide integrated framework for transformation, SWIFT, is, you all recall back in April, I think we reported out that we had formed this equity committee. We were very excited about it. Anyways, that's what the committee did. So me and Jesse Latimirak, we had monthly meetings with staff throughout this year, working on that plan. And so the goal was get a final report and plan to the board by the end of the calendar year. And so we cut it very close, but it is, as Dr. DeBrienza said, it is a very comprehensive, very granular plan, breaks down high level goals for the district, then breaks down specific goals by domain, from everything from district operations to all the various domains in how we run the district and serve our kids, identifies specific initiatives within each of those domains targeted towards moving the needle in a very measurable way, identifies the metrics for each of those high-level goals and mid-level goals, how we're going to measure whether we're being successful, identifies a timeline for each of those sub-initiatives, identifies individual personnel who are responsible for those specific initiatives. So it is, like I said, for a board who has wanted to exercise oversight over equity for a long time, this is the paint by the numbers roadmap on how to do that. So that was the purpose of the committee's work this year. And I think staff did an excellent job in executing it.
Well, thanks. So I have a few things that I'd like to share on city activities, but before doing that, I want to express appreciation first for what you just described on this comprehensive equity initiative. I think it's really critical to the community as a whole, as well as to the school district, and really appreciate that. And then second, I just want to express appreciation for the testing and vaccination programs that the district has played a great leadership role in, and really taken the bull by the horns on it. And the fact that you've opened up the testing to the community is really greatly appreciated. And then I did want to comment on the speakers earlier from Palo Alto Community Childcare, and I was glad to hear that there's a tentative meeting coming up of really the three parties that for decades have been in a partnership on providing high quality childcare for the community. And over time, these programs kind of tend to be taken for granted, and the relationship not always kind of understood the whole context of it, and I think that's really valuable. We've had decades of parents who have greatly appreciated the provision of high quality childcare on our campuses. To most of them, they don't understand exactly who's providing what and how. It looks like there's a relationship between the school district and PAC, but they don't realize it's a three-party relationship where there are city funds that have been going into renting those spaces. And really, I think most of parents attribute this great childcare provision to the school district. And when we go to the voting booth, when the district has ballot measures, this is part of what we our voters appreciate. And this is not just current parents, this is voters who have had kids in their in the schools going back 30 years or so. And so it's a big part of what we associate with the value that PAUSD provides to the community when we go to the voting booth. I did want to add a couple other things on the grade separation issue. As Rippon mentioned, the council deliberately put into its motion to have a collaboration with Stanford, Payback, and in particular PAUSD, because these crossings have a great impact on PAUSD. And so going forward, we want to sit down and understand your processes better so that we can get a real collaborative input from PAUSD. In particular, when we have construction of these, they're essentially going to be shutting down the ability to use those crossings during several years of construction. So we've been deeply concerned on continuing to provide safe routes to school during that period. And as a result, we're looking at actually multiple dedicated bike and pedestrian crossings over Alma and the tracks in both South Palo Alto and on the Churchill, prospectively at Seal. And so that's one of the aspects of the program. We also, I should note that BTA just officially endorsed, the board just officially endorsed an agreement on what are called the Measure B dollars, where Palo Alto will receive in the vicinity of $400 million toward grade separations, which are a major down payment on a big cost. And we have increased latitude on how we're going to be able to use those. And we are hoping that we'll be able to use a portion of those dollars toward these bike and ped grade separations, as well as to the vehicular ones. Also, I think it would be of interest, the council just had a follow-up meeting on future renter protection initiatives and have given support to pursue refinement of several different renter protection initiatives to hit a whole set of aspects of the problem. There's no one single cure, but I'd encourage interested parties to look at that council meeting and the actions. We also just recently endorsed pursuing the prospect of utilizing one of our downtown surface parking lots for a combination of parking and affordable housing. And this a concept that's been in the works. It has future application on potentially other surface parking lots, including the Cal Ave area, because affordable housing needs land as a subsidy in many circumstances. And this is one of the places that we hope to be able to do that. I did want to note on the Coverly plan, I'm looking forward to inclusion in that, something that may not be at the forefront of the district concern, which is all the circulation issues and how kids get to those temporary schools at Coverly, both bike and ped and drop-offs, because these are going to be schools that won't be neighborhood schools in their temporary location. And so they could have a very significant impact on traffic and bike and pedestrian safety and accessibility. So I hope we're going to really sit down and work together to try to work out best plans on those. I think it's your schedule is a rush time horizon for us being able to adapt some of our measures that might be necessary to address circulation. So I think that'll be very important. We also had an update on our city budget, and we're seeing some improvement on it. The weekly had a headline that was a little rosier than the reality. Basically, what it means is that we don't have structural deficits if we don't restore our programs and if we don't lift our employee compensation up in a way that will allow us to be more competitive. We've frankly been having real challenges, as other cities have had, in recruitment and retention. And we're having difficulty even restoring positions that have been authorized to be restored. But the budget does not include being able to restore all kinds of programs that have been cut, of the shuttle system, full library hours, a lot of youth services, public safety areas. The city is still in a deep hole from the financial impacts of COVID. Palo Alto was hit financially harder than most cities, and so I just want to make sure that it was well understood that many of the programs that we have historically had to serve families and youth are not restored, and we don't have a plan yet to be able to do that. And so I think it's of a concern to both of our bodies. And then we also had an update on our sustainability and climate action plan, and we're really moving aggressively on that and would love to collaborate with the district. We have some wonderful student activists who are engaging with our program, and we actually have an advisory board that includes a student member as one of the 5 community members on the advisory board, who sits with some really top leaders in this field. And lastly, we had an update on how we would conduct board, commission, and standing committee meetings like this going forward in the COVID context, and we've opted to pause on moving those toward in-person or hybrid meetings for another additional couple of months while we try to figure out what are going to be the impacts of Omicron on our ability to do that. And so that's my updates. I sure be glad to answer any questions too. All righty. Well, in that case, I guess we can move on to future meeting dates and agendas.
Sure, Bert. Before we move on, just a friendly reminder that we should ask for public comments.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Can I also say, while we're here, we should probably try and approve the minutes, because next meeting, we're gonna have different people that are gonna say, I wasn't at that meeting, so I don't know if I can approve them. And it's so, as long as we've got Mr. Tanaka here, I think we should.
Oh, he is here. Okay. And I see Greg has his hand raised. So Councilmember Tanaka, why don't you go right ahead?
Sure. I guess first thing, I do think that as a working parent, I think childcare is really important in the city. So I really appreciate the work that the PACCC is doing for the city, and I hope that we could work with them so that they could be successful. I think that's really important. I think the chair covered most of the topics for the city, so that's great. So thank you for that. And just want to give you guys a heads up, I do have a 9:30, so just want to give you a warning on that one. Okay, thank you.
Pat, you're muted.
Thank you. We'll see if there are members of the public to speak, and then we'll loop back to the minutes approval. And do we have Mary Gloner, who is, I don't know if she has called in. I see a hand raised, so.
Yeah, so Mary is on the panelist side. We were supposed to have an item today as a follow-up to last month's discussion related to collaboration around mental health, but I am looking at the published agenda and it is not on there. So
Okay.
my apologies. I think that's why Mary's raising her hand.
Well, I think we can allow some discussion under updates items. I'll stretch that boundary a little bit. We won't be taking action. And so I just want to make sure we have time to approve the minutes. So why don't, for right now, put on hold that update and return to the approval of the minutes while Councilmember Tanaka is here. So on that note, I will move the approval of the minutes from November 18th.
I'll second.
Thank you. And unless there is discussion, we can go ahead and take the vote.
Chair Burt,
Yes.
Board Member Darup,
Abstain?
Board Member DeBrienza,
Aye.
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
The motion carries 3-0 with 1 abstention.
Thank you. All right, so now we'll return to item number 3. And Mary, if you would like to provide the update, we would welcome it.
I wanted to say thank you again for the opportunity. I really appreciate, and on behalf of the board, and we have actually 3 board members present. As you know, Kristen O'Kane serves representing the city of Palo Alto, but we also have Dr. Shashank Joshi and Meghna Singh. We also have our co-chair of our policy advocacy committee, Anaisa Kazi, in attendance to be supporting here. So my understanding from the rich discussion and very hopeful is that the committee is committed to have an additional discussion to really define their roles of what they envision in relationship to Project Safety Net. I know that we have set a commitment that around fall, maybe August is when a good time for us to do our annual updates. But in the meantime, I think we're positioned, or the committee's position representing the 2 bodies, to really explore deeper about the role and responsibility. I can share some activities that have happened since last month's meeting that can inform and shape. And I understand you can't move into action, but I'd love if you could agendize in a future meeting to have that, or either do it offline. But some things that would be of interest to both bodies, as some of you may have known, we received pilot funding to launch a teen mental health first aid. And we've had some already good discussions with PAUSD, and we're now moving into the second phase of really identifying how to implement the pilot. We are also in conversations and plan to pilot also at Los Altos, Mountain View Union High School District, Fremont Union High School District, and 2 community-based organizations to be determined. The pilot is to actually train 10th through 12th graders to be mental health first aiders. In addition, simultaneously to provide training with adults who are directly linked to these students, whether it's a family or school, in addition to making sure they have access to mental health counseling services. We feel that this is primed. We're not going to be launching a wide in the model that was recommended by the National Council of Mental Wellbeing, but our goal is to pilot a cohort of class of 2025 of each school district and 2 community-based organizations. I think we'll be primed, as some of you may know, that by January 1st, 2024, the public school systems are required to have a plan that details how they're expanding their mental health education to middle and high schools. And we're hopeful that many of the schools that we're piloting it can also report that they're already conducting it. And we are also in conversations with Santa Clara County Office of Education. So I think this is something that really can't, it's not being done yet in the Bay Area, and we're hoping that PSN will be not only providing services locally but be a go-to for technical assistance for others school systems. And then in regards to policy and advocacy, working with Kristen and having a follow-up meeting in January to really define an MOU that looks at how can PSN support them in updating the suicide prevention policy, post-vention communications, and other aspects. The means restriction advisory group had its kickoff meeting, just really organizing and shaping. And Dr. Shashank Joshi is the co-chair. We're excited of the competition that we have, and we'll be expanding to more and hopefully bring in more policy makers, not only locally, but region-wide as well. And then finally, we with the guidance of Diana Bautista, who's the other co-chair with Onaiza Kazi, we're going to kick off our coalition action team, focus on policy advocacy, centering around power mapping, on youth mental health and suicide prevention landscape. And then finally, I think this is where it'll be important to get a lot of the stakeholders, both you on in city as well as school district, but the broader community. We are launching our 3-year strategic planning process. We fortunately received funding through the Sandhill Foundation with the goal to have a presentation of our plan by the end of fall 2022. So we're in the process of identifying a consultant. So that will hopefully give you some additional information about places where you believe the two bodies of yours that you're representing could have a specific role and elevated engagement. I don't know if our board members or our policy co-chair would like to add anything. They can raise their hands, and so that the clerk of the board can acknowledge them.
I don't see any hands raised unless I'm missing them.
There's one.
Oh, thank you.
Dr. Joshi.
Excellent. Dr. Joshi, welcome.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to comment very quickly and appreciate the work that this liaison committee is doing, and really keeping the eye on the ball as we go into the holidays. Hopefully it's going to be joyous for most, but it can be challenging at the same time, and it can be primarily challenging for some. And so I think the work of the Means Restriction Advisory Group is going to continue through the holidays in the background, because we are facing some real challenges around student mental health and teacher well-being. I do think it's getting better, but there are still, as you know, from any of you working in schools, or if you have kids in schools, as I know some of you do, we just got to keep our eye on the ball. So we're going to be convening that advisory group monthly, and it's pretty multidisciplinary, and it's folks not only from our community, but experts from around the country, and they're very committed. So I'm pleased with the start. And lastly, to Ms. Wheeler's point from earlier about the JLS, the hope that we can get that transportation going. As a JLS parent, I would be really happy to see that moving too. So thanks for including me, and I'll turn it back over to any other board member. And thanks, Mary, for that summary you provided.
Thank you. And do we have any other speakers from the board or otherwise? If not, I do want to just express appreciation for the work that PSN is doing, and in particular what Dr. Joshi was just talking about of the monthly meetings of the Means Restriction Committee. And my understanding is that school board member Todd Collins is now a member of that committee, and I think that's really a great addition to build that joint effort between our entities on that really important focus. So,
Chair Burt?
Yes.
Just a point of order that, well, Mr. Collins brought up last night at the meeting about his role on that. He wanted to make it very clear that it was in his individual capacity only
Okay,
and not as a member of the district. So I wanted to share that as we talk
All
about
right.
it.
Thanks for that clarification. All right. If we don't have any other speakers on that issue, we can move on to final discussion of future meetings and agendas. Deputy City Manager Cotton Gaines, do you?
Vice President DeBrienza has her hand up
Oh,
for the item.
great,
Sorry.
thank you. I missed that.
Just real quick, I don't know if it's a part of a future agenda or if it's just another nod to the idea, but parents have been coming to me about the JLS sort of lack of shuttle route and concerns about it. And I didn't even realize that there was a bus that already does that route, just does it a few minutes late. So it just feels, having struggled with that infrastructure, right? We don't have the buses or we can't get the drivers. It's such a huge investment to get it up and going. If it's actually already running and we can just get them to shift it by a few minutes, that would be amazing. Chair Burt, if there's anything that we can do to help push that along with the VTA, let us know, because that feels a lot more doable than us finding more buses and drivers or you guys getting the shuttle going again. So that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was not aware of that timing issue. I think that's Route 35. I've got to double check the map, but I'm hoping that that's something that can be adjusted. It sure seems logical. All right. Well, Chantel, you're up.
Awesome, thank you. I'm checking my notes. So this is the last meeting of this year, and the next meeting of this committee will be in February 2022. Our city council will choose the representatives in January, so that meeting usually does not take place for this committee. And you all did a great job this year with accomplishing a ton of work, so there's not a lot of things that are carried over into next year. But one item is just continuing those conversations on the collaborations and that small ad hoc group. So I can work with the chair offline to see what the plan will be for that, because that item is one of the ones that is pending. And then the school relocation project is the other one, with just an update to this committee on the collaboration happening between staff at the city and the district. So as Mr. Shikata mentioned, that'll be talked about somewhat with the cover lead discussion at city council in early February, but an update for this committee in February probably will also be on the agenda.
Great. And so our next scheduled meeting is February 17th. Is that correct?
Just a second. Yes.
Great. Well, on that note, I just want to wish everyone a happy holidays and wish all our students and families the same. And it's been a pleasure working with this group this year. And hopefully we'll have some carryover next year and continue on some of these same efforts. And on the VTA route, Jennifer, I'd be glad to stay in the loop with you in particular on that. I'll be contacting VTA staff today to make sure I don't drop the ball on that and
Great,
see
thank you.
what can happen. All right.
Wonderful. Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah, same to you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Take care.